Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Raise the Vibe with Liz. I'm your host, Liz Peterson, and today I have my friend Susan Lynch joining me. We're going to be talking all about dreaming up life, but I am super excited about this interview because Susan was part of my exit and healing 6 years ago. She was my first radio show guest on Raise the Vibe here on Vashon Island with Voice of Vashon. Super excited to have her on. And we just ping back and forth when we get together. So really excited. Susan, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you on. This is such synchronicity because not only were you my first guest on there, but also it's been exactly 5 years since that recording. What, a week ago?
Isn't that April 29th, like 3 days ago. I mean,
Yeah.
March 29th. March 29th. Yeah, I was looking through my phone for some other picture and I found your photo and I went, that's when we did that thing. And then I looked at it and it was March 29, 2019. And that was your very first. And I haven't done anything with you since then. And here we are, 5 years, almost exactly to the day. And we didn't even plan it that way. I love it.
We didn't plan it. I know you sent me the picture. I pop on Facebook memories and there we are. I'm like, this is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's the synchronicities. I love synchronicity. Everybody
So
knows
do I. You
magic
know it.
in life. Living in the magic, aren't we, Susan? Goosebumps and all between the two of us.
Yeah, it usually happens. It's already happened, and I think it's going to happen some more during this interview. Yep.
I think so too. I'm going to buzz through your bio really quick. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Susan, after completing a 7-year apprenticeship with Amanda Folger of the Foundation of Shamanic Studies, Susan is a shamanic practitioner who's been in private practice for 25 years. She is a dreamer, a seer, an empath, and clairaudient, all of which make her particularly suited for this work. She calls herself an energy wrangler, an electrical healer, and time bender who creates efficiencies and increasingly uses frequency alignment to restore wholeness throughout her array of shamanic services. Susan is the author of a poetry collection, Into the All Empty with Chatwin Books from 2023, was poet laureate on Vashon Island in 2019 through 2021, and is currently seeking literary representation for her nonfiction work, In the Drift, Dreaming Up a Life. Awesome, Susan.
That's it.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
So tell us also what brought you to the creation of this book, the distinction between dreaming, dreaming up, and dreaming awake. Give it to us, Susan.
So I'm a dreamer, and I always have been since I was little. And I didn't know until kind of fairly recently that it is a multicultural, worldwide shamanic precept that everything is alive and that we're dreaming all the time. And I knew that, but I didn't know that the dreaming all the time was so much a part of how this all works energetically. I just knew that's how it worked in my life. And so during 2019, I had a dream, and this always happens, which is why I'm writing the book. I had a dream where my teacher, Amanda, came into the dream to tell me something, and I didn't remember what she said. So I emailed her and I said, "You were in my dream and it was important, but I don't remember what you said." And she said, "Well, let's have a chat." And on the phone chat, I was, of course, always segue into, "Oh, I had this dream, and in the dream, la, 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 la." And she said, "Susan, I think your dreaming has reached a point now where you could write a book that would be helpful to other people." And I went, "Oh, that's what you said in the dream," right? It all like clicked together. And that's how the link between lucid dreaming, dreaming awake, and dreaming up happens. Because, especially for me, I have a dream, and then, like right now, the popping's going on, the synchronicity, and then it actually shows up in real life, and I recognize it, and I go, "Oh, there you are." And case in point, this beautiful pink optical calcite was one of the very first. I'm trying to get the rainbows. You can't really see them. This came to me in a dream way before I knew anything about shamanic work, way before I met Amanda, way before I began my apprenticeship. in the 80s. It came in a dream, and I went, that's weird. I had this dream about this obloid, and then I went into a store on Melrose in LA, and there it was. And it spoke to me. And that's when I first realized that my clairaudience was very strong with the crystalline kingdom. And it said, hi, remember me from your dream? I mean, it literally did. And I was way
Wow.
early before I knew. And I heard it, and I looked at it, and I went, did you just say something to me? And he said, yeah, I'm here for you. And thus began, this, what now is over. That was like over 30 years ago. So dreaming, coming through into what shamans call ordinary reality, I call that dreaming up. So my role is to dream and then dream up and then bridge it through. So I'm a dreamer and a bridger. And that also entails dreaming awake, which means you're awake. And I know because it happens to you. And all of a sudden you go into this other state where I call it soul navigating. You're like, wait, what's happening? And you're in a very connected, right, present state of mind, and you feel it. And then that's when often I get my guides telling me things, or I notice things, or the synchronicities happen, or seven eagles start flying over my head. And all of these things with the shamanic journeying that I do for clients, which of course is dreaming, it's another kind of dreaming. All of this is how my life and my work happen. So I thought, well, maybe I'll write a book about it. And I have.
Wonderful. And it's such a hot topic right now. I was telling you this like before the show. It is so on fire right now. Everybody's talking about dreaming right now. Everybody's talking about lucid dreaming, dreaming, period, dreaming while we're awake, that we are a living dream, that we can create our life because it is a dream.
Yeah.
Manifestation is super high. I was just having a conversation with my son when he popped over right before this recording about dreaming his life into existence. Posted about it last week. It is so on fire right now. So what can you tell our audience? How can they dream their life into
I
probability,
can't wait
possibility?
until this book gets out there. I wish it was out there right now, because I would say, go get the book and read it. It's just chock full, because I talk about my own life and things that have happened and what I go through. But I don't, it's not just about this happened and that, because I say, okay, now you try this, try this. And for example, people go at things now. There's such a onslaught of information, right, coming at them. There's a lot of practitioners, a lot of people in a lot of different array of types of work, and wonderful work, and wonderful practitioners telling them about this and that and this and that. And so people are like, well, wait, what should I do? And the whole thing with dreaming awake is coming right there, coming right in to yourself. And I know, because we did that retreat where it was called Raise Your Vibration and Radiate. And I think you got the message.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
because,
My
and
sister and
right.
Ricky the vibe.
And the first thing is to center within yourself, ground down into the ground, be very quiet. And that could take a while. Some people aren't used to being still, and they think, oh, well, what am I? So all of that takes what it takes. But the dreaming part is part of what helps you get into that zone, because it feels different than trying to be quiet or trying to tap into your purpose, or you just go into this place and you're like, huh. And it's presence, there's a bunch of words, but with me, I call it dreaming awake. And when you're there, because it feels different. And a lot of things can happen for people. So for them to practice just putting aside some time where they feel comfortable. I love watching water. Water is my thing. So I go watch water. I love sitting out and watching leaves move. When there's a breeze and there's some leaves. And they kind of bring me into that connectivity and that presence that allows me to go into that dreaming awake state. And it's like meditating or anything else. If you start thinking about it, same with journeying. If you're in a journey and you're helping a client, you think, okay, wait, am I going to remember all of this? I mean, it's going to throw you out of the work that you're doing. So your cultivating of your stillness and your cultivating of your ability to let something else happen besides trying to do something. It's a different channel. And if you start sliding, even if it's only for a couple months, you go, huh, okay, that felt really good. And I don't know, and don't pressure yourself with what does it mean and what should I do? And just cultivate that thing that is dreaming awake. So that's the awake part. In dreaming, there's a whole bunch of chapters on that too. You start working with intent. And what shamans say is it's all energy and intent. And if you've got energy and intent where you can work with that, as you know, but for people who maybe don't, that's what makes everything happen. And if you talk to a shaman down in the Achuar tribe in South America, as John Perkins did in his wonderful book from long ago, The World is As You Dream It, he was talking to the shaman and he was saying, we Western people, we've just done such a horrible job on the earth and we've screwed it up so much. And what can we do? And what should we do? And can we change it? How, he's really lamenting. And the shaman just started laughing. And he was kind of like, what? And he goes, change the dream. It literally is that. That's what I call frequency alignment as well. And people right away are maybe go, well, it can't be that simple. I don't understand what you mean. Or could you define that better? But it really is energy and intent. And if you get those two babies together, does that explain it?
Yes, so true, because that is a missing piece also that I like to work with my clients. I talk with it with my boys, my partner. It's work with the energy. Send your prayers and thoughts and dreams, because our words, our prayers, our words, our magic, our intent forward into space and time, because space and time are an illusion, right? So if we're working with the energy constantly, we can work in all areas of our life, right, Susan? If we're working with the energy of the moment or the future, and we can even work with the energy of the past, but working with that energy helps us to dream our reality.
And in shamanic work, just part of our day-to-day work when we're journeying for clients and we're finding out what's behind certain patterns or where their energy has gone that needs to be retrieved and brought back to them, or where some of these fears and beliefs that are hampering them came from. We're traveling through time and space all the time. It's just part of it. So it's no biggie to us to go, whoa, now I'm back in 400 years ago at a different lifetime and this, or now I'm going over there and I'm going underneath this, I'm going into this box that somebody has in a drawer that actually has that person's heart in it because they wanted to keep it, and that the client needs that part of their heart back. I mean, it's symbolic and it's wonderfully imagistic, but traveling through time and timelines is part of what we do. So it's not strange to us. And now, as you were just saying, timeline jumping and your highest timeline, and people are like, wait, what? And the idea of Dolores Cannon had a great thing. She said, yeah, you're a kid and you're a baby, and then you go to high school, and then you're older and you get married, and then later on you look in the mirror and you go, I just turned 70. And I'm like, what? So doesn't that mean that it is linear? We have to be able to hold more than one thing at a time. And people have a difficulty with paradox in their heads. The soul and the heart has no trouble with paradox. And that maybe, actually, now that I say that, that's a key to dreaming awake and dreaming up. You got to think with your heart. And then you just soul, I call it soul navigation, because something starts happening. Your soul goes, okay, this is a yes. This is a yes. I don't know what this is, but it feels right. It feels good. You pick up on that. You don't bog it down with, how could this possibly happen? Blah, 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 blah. Other people say, you say, go away. And you allow your soul to navigate, literally saying, you know what? Why don't you go take a drive right now and go here? And then you run into somebody, or you know what I mean? The synchronicities start happening. The soul can have paradox going. Now, that means that when you're going to jump a timeline, you don't go, all right, mission engaged, jumping timeline. You allow your soul to go where it needs to go. And this is very much what shamanic work is all about. I mean, we do this all day long. I don't know. Is that helpful to explain people to people who don't maybe know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that is helpful. I think let's weave in that intent piece too, because that intent piece is putting our focus on something that we want to create in our life, right? So how can people use that intent to work with the energy for their dreaming life?
It's a good question. You're great, really good with your questions. And I want to say, as I explain in the book, this enigmatic thing, and again, paradox, so open your mind. To know what intent is, first you have to know what it is.
Yeah.
And that drives people crazy, because they're like, well, wait a minute. Intent is not like trying really hard. That's not it. Intent, in terms of energetic, shamanic, dreaming up kind of intent, you're not making something happen. And this is really important, because people are really about, all right, I'm going to make this happen. That's not it. You've got to be soul guided. You've got to allow. You have to notice. I call it noticing and following. You notice something. I am feeling like I want to get in my car and drive somewhere. And you don't go, well, I can't do that today. I'm doing the laundry. You get in your car and you drive. You see what happens, because then you're following something that your soul went, we need to do this now. So you're following intent, but that doesn't mean you know what's happening. You have to be really comfortable, excuse me, with knowing and not knowing at the same time. Mm. That's key to soul navigating. You know something's happening, and you know it's a yes. You have no idea where it's going, how it's going to happen, what it's all about, but you just gotta do a little bit. You got to put some energy behind that. So the soul says, okay, this is a yes. You go, all right, let's follow that. You are now using energy and intent, but you don't know what you're trying to make happen. And this is key, because people are really intent, which is a joke, right? I always make puns. That's a different kind of intent. Like, I'm intent on getting a pay raise. That's not what we're talking about here. So, or I'm going to do this very intently. If there's intentionality, sorry, I'm a word freak. I'm going to get off the subject. I'll come back. It's more, that's why soul navigating is how I say it. It's more navigating in a different type of sense, which gets us into our timeline and our multidimensional selves. We allow ourselves to go to a different perspective that as humans we are now capable of using, and going, okay, this feels very different from how I normally do my errands or whatever. But as you work with it, you get more and more able to do it. And this happens very nicely in dreaming. So before you go to bed at night, just as a basic thing, and I say this to clients too, before they come for a session, I say, before you go to bed tonight, just ask for a dream. Just say, I ask for a dream. And don't worry if you forget about it. Don't worry if you don't remember. Don't worry if nothing happens, or you wake up and then you forget it. Don't stress about any of it. Just ask and see what you get. Then over periods of time, you work with intent in dreaming. And if you put out an intent before a dream, and then you see what you get.
Mhm.
My whole bunch of first chapters are about that. And I do dream work with people, by the way, if anybody's interested. If
Yeah.
they want to develop, they have dreams, they don't know what they mean, they don't know what to do about them. One way to do something about them is to work with a dream teacher. And we do it at your own pace, one on one, by remote. And I don't tell you what your dreams mean. I help you use your intent, big track your lucidity. I call them keys to lucidity. Oh, I went lucid then. And you start being able to go, oh, that happened in this dream actually keys back to what happened back then, but I didn't realize it at the time. And then you start getting a wider landscape for who you're meeting in your dreams, why repetitive scenarios are happening, which different worlds you're visiting. And all of that really helps then dreaming awake. So they help each other. Dreaming awake and working with intent in your daily life really helps your intent in dreaming, and vice versa. And it just starts being how you do your thing. For
Mhm.
me, it's the only way to go.
Yeah, and I find the more I work with my dreams, and it was wonderful working with you, Susan. I highly recommend you. Anybody that wants to do dream work or shamanic work, it was really powerful. So thank you. Thank you so much for the
You.
healing, when I was going on my healing journey. Um, I got lost in my thought there as I just went back to the past, just like that in that timeline.
Yeah. Timeline
Um,
jump.
yep,
Time
timeline
jumping.
jump.
That's
But
actually
wonderful
a good
work.
thing to jump to is people don't understand what that means. And when you are dreaming up, often you will see something. With me, I have a dream. I just get flat out shown it. Like, and I've never, like, when I went to Reed College at 53, I didn't know I was going to college. I had a dream and I had a journey. They said, now the teacher is going to become the student. And I had a dream and they showed me a big Gothic building, uh, homes in a neighborhood that had arched doorways and pink flowering trees. That was it. One, two, three. And I thought, hmm. And then I ended up applying to Reed College. I'd never been there, never been up to Portland. And when I went up for my interview, it was April. The library was that building exactly. The neighborhood, the very street I ended up living on, right there, had the arched doorways, and it was April, so there was pink flowering trees everywhere. And I just went, oh, this is my dream. It was the only college I applied to. I hadn't even finished high school. That was 35 years ago. I got my GED. I scored really well. They liked the thing. They let me in. But the dream happening told me this is happening. This will now be what you do. This is what I'm talking about in my book. That's timeline jumping. Do you see what I mean?
That's exactly what I was going to point to. And thank you for telling that story because I was going to go into intuition and premonition, and you intuitively knew what my question was going to be, by the way. Yes, that
And
is,
that's how things
and that
happen
goes
to
beyond.
and that's how things happen to me. And now I think what my teacher was getting at is maybe she knew, because that was 5 years ago in 2019 that I had this dream and started doing this. And she said that. But I think really what was going on is, and that was before we knew about COVID, right?
Mhm.
But that somehow the guides knew there's going to be this period of time, and this is going to be a great period of time for you to write this book about dreaming. And all these dreams happened in just this 6 month period that gave me the dream things that I use to help people understand, what they might be experiencing more. Um, and then I actually forgot about the book. This is typical of dreaming up for me, because COVID came. I completely forgot I wrote the damn thing. And then about a year later into COVID, I had another dream. I mean, this is just typical. This is how it works. And they went, look in your folder on my computer. I looked in. I'd already written 140 pages of it, and I forgot because it slipped out of the timeline, because the timeline became COVID, right? Making sure you don't get it, making sure you're sheltering, making sure you don't do this and you do that. And it was very much into that. But actually, the time delay was correct, because as you're just saying, now is the time for this book.
Yes. Yeah, right.
And
We
so
beat
it's,
ourselves up all the time about like, oh, if I had done it then, if I had done it then. But if you had done it then, maybe it was pre the big explosion of dreaming life, and it just got lost, right? And now, if you're to publish it when it's up and part of the conversation, the time is now. So it's
and
that knowing, it's that unknown
you're
that
absolutely
you were
right.
talking about.
Absolutely right. I was reading parts of it to myself yesterday because I've done so much editing and revision work and stuff. And I read the part I sent you, then I read another part I sent, and then I started going. I thought, okay, that's a solid chapter. Read that. That's a solid chapter. Solid chapter. And the through line of the book, what it was actually about, changed a lot. And this is something else that is helpful for people in working with intent and their life. What you and this is my through across the board in my life, what I think I'm doing isn't the whole story of what I'm actually doing that thing for at that time. And I'm sure you're probably the same way. I think like, oh, I'm going to college. Okay, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do this with that. Well, that doesn't end up happening. But what does end up happening out of me doing that is exactly what I need to be doing after that. And I think people get to soul navigate. I say it's like being on vacation all the time because you let go of thinking you need to know everything, of thinking you need to not make any mistakes, of thinking if you're on the right track, it'll just go like this. I mean, all of these things that we're kind of now, in a way, being sold like, oh, just do your manifestation technique. And it's not true. But there is the whole thing of how you work with your intent and your energy, and the whole thing of what your old patterns are that come up to block this.
Yeah.
And we all have them. I mean, we all have them. It's not like, oh, I got rid of all of mine. It's like, yeah, until tomorrow when one pops up and goes, you're like, ah. But working with this is really understanding that our soul knows. Our soul knows, and it has known, it does know, it will know. And in that way, there is no time. The soul is always there. It knows. Einstein said, past, present, and future is just a stubbornly persistent illusion.
Mm.
And the soul lives in that what they call the highest timeline, which is just, it's all one. It's the oneness. It's love. The soul is there. The soul is alive. It's like, oh, here I am again. And it has more awareness of who you really are than you know. So it's like discovering who you really are, but you really are that already. And you get to use that to timeline jump because everything you're dreaming up that you want, it's already happening, or you wouldn't be connecting with it so strongly. But it's hard to hold that truth with the, I don't live there. I don't know how I can get to live there. I don't know how I'm going to get the thing to get the thing, right? So we all are working with these paradox. It's paradox.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it can be fun. Paradox is fun.
Our physical bodies, like we get stuck in the physical realm, that 3D realm where it's right here, right now, got to get it done, got to do it, got to do the manifestation, whatever. But we have to remember, like, we're also these energetic beings and we're also our soul. And our soul knows way before we do. Our energy is always in front of us. My energy system always knows what's coming. The workshop I'm going to be doing, I start processing weeks beforehand. The trip I'm going to go on, my energy body knows. 3 seconds before anything happens, I know. Like our energy precedes us. So remembering, like you said, to, work or not forget that we're also working with that energy. We're setting our intent, but then it's like that surrender and release, I think you're speaking to just allowing our soul or our energy or spirit to take the wheel because it already knows.
That's why I talk about frequency alignment so much now too, because we're doing this multi-dimensional thing where we are changing frequencies, and that is evolution of consciousness. So we are able now to come from a different perspective that more connects us to the oneness and more opens us up to the truth of our being and all, our soul and all of that. And it's helpful to learn to, I call it ride the surprises. When you start feeling like, oh, I think I'm shifting dimensional states, or I'm shifting brainwave states. Oh, this feels different. Instead of like grappling it mentally, that's not the right channel. I mean, my guides always say switch channels. And I switch channels, and I'm clairaudient. Something might come in audio. You and I, we get the chills, the sentient awareness, or just a energetic. The heart starts opening and just going wah wah. You follow that, and instead of worrying about it or wanting definitions, you just learn to like, oh, now this is happening. That's very helpful in each individual developing their soul navigation skills, their sentient awareness, their ability to ride like the solar flares coming in and how that gives us headaches and makes us dizzy and stuff. We can ride it like the waves of frequency that they actually are. That's very helpful, not only to the individual dreaming up what they want, but to the whole human evolution of consciousness that's happening now. The more we as individuals can develop and cultivate our ability to soul navigate and ride the surprises, all my little phrases, the easier it is for us, because we're like, whoa, feel that. And instead of going, oh, why is this happening? You're like, yeah, feeling that. And then you think, you know what? I need some electrolytes, or I need to go and journey about this, or I need to go watch some water right now, and allow the power and the energy and the light to come in. And you can say gently, could it please arrive gently? And then that helps you open to your own particular guides, because we all have them. That's something people ask me all the time. Does everybody have guides? And the short answer is, yeah. So how can I tune into them? Well, learn to be still, learn to feel coming from your heart, learn to think, wait, something different, a different channel is happening in my head. And watch your dreams, start developing intent through your dreams. And things just start, you feel it. It's a feel thing. Am I right? You're like, okay, feel that. And you're like, yeah, I do feel it. Mm-hmm. You don't need to quantize it through the 3D brain. In fact, it doesn't fit. Am I right? It doesn't fit. You can't, it's like a sausage grinder. It's like, you don't want to be putting this stuff through the 3D sausage grinder. It's like, no, just don't have to.
That's great. For those listeners who want to work with their guides, who want to work with spirit, who wants to work with the other side, what advice do you have to be able to start working with them, not only like in our daily life, maybe clairaudiently or clairvoyantly or clairsentiently, but also in our dream state?
Ask for a dream. Ask for a dream. I ask for and this is kind of cool because it's very much self-care also. And it's not like the old pattern is, oh, please help me, I don't know what to do. That is now, that keys into a lot of old patterns we have about victimhood and ignorance and lack of control and not worthiness. I mean, so better to put that aside and just simply say, I ask for example, you had a really hell week and you're just thrashed and you would like some support. So say, I would like a supportive dream. That's good enough. See what you get. I started asking to meet more with my dream teachers. And a lot of that is in the book. There's, I have guides and helpers in shamanic work, and I have this whole other group of dream teachers. And it's so exciting to develop through intent that ability to be lucid and recognize, okay, there you are. They would show me blue-green stones. I would be in a dream and I would walk by somebody and they would just be like, dee, 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 dee. And I started going, oh, blue-green stones. That turned out to be a key to lucidity that I had in my own dreams. So don't say, I want to meet a dream teacher and have them show me a sign and everything. It's like you're trying to manipulate too much. Just say, I ask for a supportive dream. I'd love, like you do in early journeys. I want to do a journey to meet a power animal. You don't know what's going to happen. You're not like, I need to have a power animal, and you just start practicing and see what you get. And while you do that, you develop the ability to notice and follow, as I call it. You notice things you like, I don't know what that is, but it's something. And then later you're like, oh, that person just did this and they went that way. I'm going to go that way. It's very subtle, but the more you do it, like anything, the more it becomes part of how you navigate. And then you can start working directly with your guides and going, hi, I see you. Like this wonderful calcite that came to me in the 80s in LA and said, hi, did you remember me from your dream? And I was like, okay, now I can just hold this wonderful being, and you can't see the rainbows, and we can talk about a lot of things. And now the crystalline communication and consciousness that I've been working with for 30 years, very closely, there are new levels of understanding and working with those frequencies for healing, for history, galactic history, for Earth history, for working with the beings in the middle of then even I knew was possible. And they've been going, okay, you ready for this? Because here we go. And this is a wonderful time for all of these reasons for people to start tuning in a little bit more to who they really are, I guess. It's a good way to say it.
I love that. And I love how you pointed out how the crystalline beings are coming more online now these days, because that's happening in the auras too of my clients, where their regular auras are becoming crystalline chakras. Sorry, not auras, chakras, and
Yeah.
my crystals around the room are joining in even more now during the healing process, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And tapping into that crystalline grid underneath our feet. Yeah, things are really shifting and amping up right now. I'm really glad you pointed that out. For those who don't really know about, the crystal grid and the crystalline beings and how to work with them, like you pointed out also, like when you were going lucid, that was a sign for you, the bluish green, stones
Yeah.
were handing you in the dream. That was
That's
a clue
always
for you to go
been
lucid.
part of an important part of my array. And now even more so because of this frequency ability we have to really, really shift frequencies, stay on a frequency for longer, be able to hold the frequency longer. And it is so important now, not only for getting what we want, but for dreaming up the world we want to live in, because we have to be able to hold the higher frequencies, which takes some development and some cultivation. And then there's enough of us that can do that the more we do that, then we actually, that world can be more and more and more and more. Not everybody's going to be able to be in that world, even want to be in that world. And that's fine. We don't really have to worry about that. Like I said, you have to be able to hold the paradox. Hey, newsflash, there's more than one show going on here. And you get to pick a world. That's one of my things from my book. I make up merch things that come out of things I say, and the guides go, oh, put that on a coffee mug. And so I have this whole line of merch that I've created that is not in physical being yet, but it will be, and it's a hoot. And one of them is a pick a world back window decal for your car.
I love it. Yeah, and that goes in the timeline. What timeline
right?
do you want to live on? You want to live on 3D where it's all duality and right versus wrong and blah blah blah, or do you want to be 5D? And let's just bump up into the higher dimensions too, because I've been working with those lately, and oh, they feel so nice.
Well, and when you are able to hold those frequencies, they actually are above fear. So you won't be able to be sucked back into like, oh God, but what about this and what about that? Which is so much the game now of like, no, 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 we can't have you people opting out of the fear and control game. We got to keep you, ballooned. So every time you get sidetracked into freaking out about something, they just sucked you back into that world. And so it becomes imperative for you to be able to hold your higher frequencies, to let your soul help you do that, to let your guides and helpers help you do that, to clear out your old patterns so they're not triggering you into making fear-based decisions. And the more you do that, the more you serve not only you serve the world that you're dreaming up and happening, and you also serve your bloodline and those timelines in both directions. It goes back all the way down into the past and it goes all the way into the future. And that, my friend, is time bending to a great degree. You're helping all the people that had to do what they had to do so that you could be alive right now in your family line. And you're helping your kids and your kids, kids, kids. And who doesn't want, who has kids isn't worried about the world that their kids are going to have. You can help that by doing this personal work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like how you were working with the fear piece too, because a lot of what's going on and what has been going on and what is programmed into us is fear-based. I was talking just the
Yeah.
other day, like our parents put fear before us. Be careful on the road. These are all good things. They, really had our best interest in mind. But what happens is we're ended up living in a fear state.
Yeah.
And it
And
continues.
survival mode is tough. I mean, everybody is talking about vagus nerve and high cortisol and fight or flight and somatic exercise, and all of that is really helpful because we don't even realize it that we've been living and COVID just kicked that right into gear. It's like survival mode, go, and it can be very difficult for us to get out of that. So doing all of the different types of things that your soul kind of tells you to do, I would say you just follow what feels right for you. Like somebody goes, oh, that looks like something I'd like to have. And it's Reiki, or it's, that sounds like something I'd like to do. And it's doing somatic exercises to release survival mode, kind of frozenness. And somebody else goes, yeah, I'd like to do some dream work. I have all these dreams and I don't know what to do with them. And then, or somebody just, for me, I do the electrolytes with the solar flares now. And if somebody comes to me and says, what do I do? What do I do? And I go aisle 3 in Thriftway, because, on the island. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, just get some electrolytes and try it. See if it doesn't help you if you all of a sudden get this energy surge that feels really hard to deal with. So it's a combo of your array of what you feel moved to do, what interests you, and even if it's just curiosity at first. A lot of people think shamanic work is scary. Somebody told me that the other day, and I was like, really? I guess because people don't know. Well, come and find out. It's not scary, especially with me, because as you know, we laugh a lot.
Yes.
My guides are hysterical.
It's so fun. So awesome. Yeah, and the crystal beings show up and the power
Oh,
animals
absolutely.
show up. Yeah, you go to fantastic places and it's deep. It's not just surface work.
Yeah.
It's
It's
deep
deep,
work.
but it's not like, oh, I'm going to fall apart and it's going to be so hard
Oh
for me
no,
to get
not
myself
scary
back.
work.
You come out of the room just like, okay, that worked, and I enjoy that. And then what's even more enjoyable is how things start happening. Am I right? Things in your life start changing, things
Yeah.
start happening. And you're like, wow, how did that happen? We don't even have to track it like that. We're like, good, that's more what you wanted.
Yeah, it
Great.
opens the door to possibility, coincidence, synchronicity,
Yeah.
being in a flow.
And noticing and following your own soul navigation, which opens you up to have your guide starting to communicate with you and you actually going, oh, people are like, I think I have these guides. And I'm like, great. How are you interacting with them? They're like, I don't know. I said, well, do you ever say like, hi, I hear you. Thank you for loving me. Or so, in early journeys shamanically, when you go and meet a power animal or something, the main thing is you want to develop relationships with your guides and helpers. This is the same thing with guides and how do you develop relationships? It's the same way you develop relationships with a pet or with a really good friend. You don't come and go, okay, now I'm going to need to do this and I want you to help me do this and I got this checklist of things I want and I want you to get on this right away. You have to get to know each other. You have to say hello, are you there? And you a lot of it, when the soul gets touched, and I know you felt it and I have, there's this upwelling of emotion because the soul recognizes the truth of it. And J.R.R. Tolkien is that's his quote. He said, when you get a sudden upwelling of tears when something you read or something that happens in this room or during a session, it's because the soul is having a recognition of truth. The soul's going, that's a yes. And it really matters to us.
Mm-hmm.
It really matters. And that's when you start going, oh, my soul wants me to do this. And who is the soul? It's actually you. So that whole idea of, well, the soul is this other thing and I'm over here with my job and that starts to kind of come together, to coalesce. Mm-hmm. And then you can soul navigate just like how you get through the day, which you're probably doing a lot of already, right, Liz?
Yes. And I know a lot of our listeners are too, but all of this is great, like info for those who want to do it further, or that reminder, oh, I was doing that in the past. I'm going to start doing that again. Or, hey, this is new to me. I'm going to start implementing this in my life. I was blessed to be able to read a couple chapters in preparation for our recording today. And I love the part where you talk about personal growth and learning in this life.
What did I say? I forget.
And that kind of ties into what we're talking about, these different timelines, intent, energy, manifestation, which timeline do we want to choose for ourselves? And then going in deeper, that frequency alignment, working with our guides, all of a sudden noticing the coincidence and synchronicity. And then that becomes this flow into, where am I holding fear in my life? That going into personal growth and how this is just a learning planet. And all of this is helping us to learn in our life.
We come here over and over again for growth and learning. So we do. And that's part of our whole thing. They're like, okay. And it's not just, we're going to send you. We go, okay, let's do this. But part of it is you're going to rediscover wisdom and truth and soul attributes, because at first it is removed so you can experience it very freshly. And you also come in with certain old patterns and with certain stuff that you're carrying so that you can work with them to transform them. That can feel to a lot of people, myself included, like, why does this always happen to me? This thing always happens to me. And it's, and people write me and say, do you believe in being cursed? And I'm like, more what's going on is there are energetic blocks that are hindering and limiting your true development of your soul purpose. And these can come from past life stuff. This can come from childhood rearing. This can come from all of the above. This can come from a million things. And it doesn't mean you're doomed to not be able to get out of that. It means there's some work to do, and you don't have to feel bad about that. And you don't have to feel like you need somebody to please help me, please help me. It's growth and learning. It's like, okay, what's going on here? When people come to me and we talk and I'm like, okay. And I just ask my guides, okay, what's going on here? And what is my role at this time to assist this person with the things that they need to get the energy back that was theirs that they lost, release the energy that is binding them or entangling them or needs extracting, that it does not belong to them, and the information, because we need the info, the guidance that they need to go, oh, okay, now that makes sense. That makes sense. And often there are multiple events that have happened during multiple lives that continue to give someone a big fear of whatever, or and so it's not just people think you go for a session and the shaman gets some smoke and feathers going and goes ding 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 and then you're all fixed. And I know with your work too, that's not how this works.
Not exactly.
It's about assisting the soul, their soul, their soul's transformation for wholeness. So I just go, okay, what's going on? And little by little, the soul's wholeness, it comes and you're more and more whole. And when you're more and more whole, being a poet, I just realized that you can be more and more in your soul because the wholeness is actually 100% soul. Then the soul just goes, okay, let's navigate. Let's do what we can do. And you don't have to feel, we have such an overlay of feeling bad about feeling bad. We have this shame is like this go-to thing we've been trained. Feel bad? You should be ashamed about that, right? Want something and don't seem to be able to have it happening? You should feel ashamed about that. Really want something that is beyond what any of your family or friends think is capable? What's going on there? There's all these limitations and shame and all this stuff, that all of these things are very old patterns. They are frequency wise incompatible with this high timeline that we want. That's why I'm talking about frequency alignment in my work now, more and more, to work on the old patterns and get rid of them. When we work on frequency alignment, two things happen. As your frequency comes more and more in alignment with this higher frequency vibe, those old fear-based patterns and even body symptoms and so on, they're incompatible. So if you get this all aligned, they're just going to go. And I know you talked about this recently. It's the possibilities for healing and quantum timeline jumping right now are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you have to do some stuff, but what is possible now is really, it's a new ball game for the human being. And the guides out there are really happy about it. They cannot do it for us, but they can help us if we ask them to help us.
Oh my gosh. And it's all the talk right now. Like, it's all coming up and out. All of it is coming up and out. It's all shadow. It's all these limiting beliefs, like you were talking about, past programming that you were talking about, just up and ready to go. Like, it doesn't even want to be here anymore. And like you said, like, our angels and guides and healing teams are like, yes, finally, like, they drank they're finally getting it. They don't have to hold on to this anymore. It's time to just let it go and step into the new and just not even take it with us. Don't even take it with us.
It's this combo again. It's the paradox. There has always been the ability for instant enlightenment. Very few people could do that, but and there was usually a whole lot of soul searching and seeking and giving up everything in order to get yourself in the zone for that. And so I don't want people to feel bad that they're not like better able to just let it all go, because it's not like that either. Things are as they are, and things run deep and they are embedded deeply, and they have their reasons for staying, and they have their possibilities for going. And all of this is done with love.
Yes.
And it's not done with judgment. I mean, I know Ainsley, the Ainsley McLeod, he comes across what he calls the inferiority judgment past life pattern. Yeah. And it runs really deep, and for good reason. I mean, we were tortured and killed, and they had a way of really making that thing stick. And so when we're working with these things, it is through love, because that's the whole vibe. Fear and love cannot coexist when you're actually at that frequency. So you get to go, oh, this is coming up, and then go, oh, okay, this is one of the things I do in my personal work too. Old pattern, you identify, okay, that's an old pattern. Oh, it's like hitting you where you live. You go, okay, old pattern. And then you habit stack the new pattern. This is neuroscience. Because our neural pathways need to have this repetitive reprogramming happening over like a 30-day period where you instantly identify the old pattern and stack the new pattern on top of it in your mind, which is, affirmations and so on. But you have to really choose to do it yourself, not just I should repeat this, but to go, oh, old pattern, stack it. I mean, I have this whole thing where I go, stack it now. And I put the new pattern, and you have to do it over and over and over again to repattern. I call it up leveling. Mm-hmm. And when you up level your stuff, it takes time, and it takes you, really wanting to, and it takes you becoming more and more aware of your own patterns, not beating yourself up over it, which just prolongs it. Just identify the pattern, disidentify with it, and stack the new frequency over the top. Everything is always working out for me. I am loved. Things like that,
and that right there is dreaming your new life into existence.
It's dreaming up a life and a world that you want to live in.
Mm-hmm. There's absolutely magic right there. That's it.
It's wonderful to assist people with this, and it's wonderful to help them tune into their own soul, to their own guides, to their own love of what they're really doing here, and to their own belief in themselves in very early journeys. And I look back at journalings and stuff from 1994 when I was an apprentice, and the guides would say very simple things like, believe in yourself. And it's still true today, because that was part of the core disconnecting work that was done on me, to not believe in myself. We're going to make you not believe in yourself because, that you've got too strong belief in yourself. So we got to screw that up. And everybody has their things, and for good reason. They are carrying these deep fears and wounds, and I just call them patterns. But you can up level them, and then what you do, it's like distilling. You distill all this stuff, and out of it come these golden drops of soul truth. And you want those drops. So this is all very worthwhile work. And in there, in all of that stuff, you get your soul drops back.
Oh, I love that. Soul drops. It's gold.
Soul drops.
Awesome. Speaking of soul drops, what is a jewel of wisdom you would like our listeners to know today, Susan?
One of the big ones, I'll give you the one for the coffee mug. And when I have this coffee mug, and this is trademarked, so don't be thinking ahead of the game. Everybody's going to want one, because imagine getting up in the morning and having your coffee or tea in a mug that says, you don't have to know the how. Right? Because everybody always says, yeah, but how am I going to do that? How can that happen? And the whole thing is, you don't have to know the how. And the more you allow the how to happen the way it happens, and notice and follow, for me, they were like, okay, you're going to have to go get a degree, and you're going to have, but it wasn't the same thing as I need to figure this out. So you don't have to know the how. That's a little wisdom. Every time you'll find yourself going, I really want to do this, but I don't know how. Let that ping you. You don't have to know the how. It's really helpful to get that out of the way and allow. And then you have to do it a million times, because you're trained not to believe that. So that's one. Another one I'm working on right now is, well, I'll give you two. One is not mine. Past choices do not limit present possibilities.
Ooh, yeah, I love that one.
Right? Because we think they do, and we are full of regret and remorse. And I didn't know, and if only I had, if I knew then, everything. That's actually completely fallacy. And if we think of Einstein again, that's rectilinear time. because I did this back then, I can't do this now. Nope. And especially in 5D, that's just, no, that's not how it works at all. In the quantum field, anything. So that's a big one. And then I do a lot of ruminating on that. If that's one for you, it will really help you root out the regret and the past. We often just spend a lot of time going back to the past, going back to the past. And now the guides have said, and including like Lee Harris's guides, etc., that now we're going to spend more time cultivating being present and actually doing more future traveling, which is dreaming up. See what I mean? That's dreaming up. You're like, okay, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that. That's a yes. That's a yes. We don't have to know the how. We just feel something. We see, so we go, that's a yes. And then that starts out picturing. We're not so much concerned about, oh, if only I hadn't done that. So that's really handy. One last is from Lynn Twist, who worked with John Perkins with The World Is As You Dream It, and is the director with him of the Pachamama Alliance, very important work with indigenous people and the Amazon. And she has a great book called The Soul of Money. She goes all around the world and helps people all over the place with really big problems. And she finds that often the solution to the problem comes through a dream, that one of the people who actually live there experiencing the problem, they have a dream and they go, well, I had this dream, and the solution to their problem is not Western people coming in with billions of dollars. It's that dream, and having her there as an empowering presence to say, that's it, there you go, there's your thing. And then the other tribe members and go, okay, because she's encouraging and empowering that lady's dream or something. Okay, so that's Lynn Twist, Soul of Money. Her phrase that is so true, because she knows whereof she speaks, get ready. A belief in scarcity is a core disempowering myth. And then I say that twice in my book, because raise your hand if you believe that. I mean, let's face it, a lot of us, they're in there, we believe, even if we're like, no, I don't want to believe that anymore. It's deep. It runs really deep. And that is a prime disempowering way to frighten us into staying in the old patterns.
Yeah.
So I love that. And if you tell somebody that, I found they get pissed off at you. People don't like to be told that that's not really true.
Yeah.
Which is truthful. They're like, that's not true.
Yeah, my life proves it to me. That's not true.
Yeah. What about all the starving people? And you know, and you have to be careful with getting into all that. You are the only thinker in your mind, and you get to be curious about and work with these new patterns, these new stacks, these new beliefs, and you get to use your energy and your intent to work with these as your soul says, yeah, that feels better. Let's have more of that, and see what happens to your life. And it's really fun. It's kind of magical.
And be like the person she approaches in the tribe that says, I dreamt this. And be like you know, who you speak about in your book, and people will be able to read this when it comes out, where you
It's fun
read it
because
and birth it
people
into
are like,
reality.
I don't know how you can, like, how the hell did that happen? People tell me that all the time. Well, how the hell did that happen? The short answer is it began with a dream. Always.
As did this podcast, and the
Yes.
show started with a dream. Yes, it did. Yes, and thank you for being part of it, and thank you for being, I'm going to call this my 5-year anniversary, episode recording.
And look at all you've done in the 5 years. It's just phenomenal. And it's so you awakened to what you love to do, what you're really good at, how you like to do it, the way you like to work, the scope of the work you want to do, how you want to present, all of that. And you're doing it. And I'm amazed that it's only been 5 years.
I know, right? It's amazing. I love it.
A pleasure. A pleasure
to be
so
much for being a part of it. My history, my radio show, now my podcast. Thank you so much for doing the work that you do in the world. Thank you for being a guest. Share with our listeners how they can find you.
Ah, um, it's my website. Oh, my cat is talking. My cat wants to tell you. It's SusanLynchShamanicsServices.com. Now, a quick way to do it, if you think, wait, what? If you're on Vashon, for example, on the island, and I know they're not, everybody isn't, you can say Vashon Shaman, and I'll come up with one other shaman who's a friend of mine. We do work for each other. Or you can do Susan Lynch Shaman, and my website will pop right up on Google. Susan Lynch is also a very famous actress. So if you just say Susan Lynch, you're going to get millions of hits on her. There are lots of women named Susan Lynch. So you have to be more specific. But if you say Susan Lynch Shaman, no matter where you are, I will pop right up because I think I'm the only one so far that fits that. And then that's my website. And my website has all you need to know about me, about the services I do, about how I work, about what people say about it, how to order, what it's like for you if you do remote work, testimonials about me, about my initiations, about core shamanic practicing, even some glimpses of a soul retrieval where I'm shape-shifting. That was fun to capture on film. It's all there. So that should pretty much do it. And if you like Instagram, I'm Susan Lynch underscore. What is that called? You know, the bottom
Susan Lynch underscore
dreamer.
Yep. Susan Lynch underscore dreamer at Instagram and Susan Lynch Shamanic Services.com for your website. Susan, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure to host you.
A pleasure always.
You. Awesome. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Liz Peterson and this is Raise the Vibe with Liz. And you can find me everywhere at Raise the Vibe with Liz and RaiseTheVibeWithLiz.com. Thanks everybody. And remember to get out there and raise the vibe. Bye everyone.
Raise that vibe.